Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, where I, Selena Knight, share strategies, interview retail revolutionaries, and delve into the minds of e-commerce experts to help you grow a profitable, independent retail or e-commerce business. If you're stuck in a rut, or if you feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've overachieved all of the things that you've set out to and are wondering what to do next, or how do I even make this better? I know that you're going to love today's episode. If you're stuck in a rut, feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've achieved all of the things that you set out to and are wondering what next, or how do I even make this better, then I know that you're going to love today's episode. Hey there, and welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. I am super glad that you have chosen to join me today. Now, if it's okay with you, I would love to tell you a personal story today. And for those of you who have been listening for a while, you'll know that I talk quite openly about my weight journey. And around about 2 years ago, I lost, over a period of about 12, maybe a little bit more than that months, I lost 15 kilos. So for my friends in America, that's around about 30 pounds. Now, I have always battled with my weight ever since I was a child. And I was never ridiculously obese. But for most of my adult life, I've been heavy or solid or could lose a few pounds. And so I made the concerted effort to do something about it. Now, I have done this before. Back in my 20s, I lost around about 20 kilos. And it was actually pretty easy. I did Weight Watchers, and so I was still eating lots of healthy foods. I was still having the occasional glass of wine and going out with my friends. And I lost that 20 kilos in around about 12 months. This time round, it was a lot different. I had tried lots of different things ever since finding out that I was wheat intolerant. Obviously, I've been gluten-free, but I tried keto, I tried intermittent fasting, I tried all the things, but nothing seemed to help me lose weight. And it's not like I was going up and down, up and down. I just kind of sat at this same weight that my body seems to fall into, and even though I exercise quite a lot, I couldn't seem to move the needle. And so fast forward to a couple of years ago when I was sitting down thinking there's got to be something else that I can try. And I stumbled across a program, and as I said, I talked about this in a previous episode. You're welcome to go back and listen to it. And I stumbled across a program where it was a meal. I actually bought the program because it was a meal planning app. Now, part of the benefit of this meal planning app is that it helps you to count your calories and work out how much you should be eating every day. And so even though I didn't buy the app for the weight loss perspective, I totally bought it simply because I needed some help getting my shit sorted. What I found was that by eating 6 times a day, I lost weight. And it was pretty easy. I was doing the same things that I was always doing, and the weight slowly came off. Now, something else to note is I have always been an active person. I mean, we have 57 stairs just to get to our front door. So even if I did nothing else, going back and forth upstairs, down to the garbage bin, down to the car, down to the mailbox, walking the dogs a couple of days, getting those Amazon deliveries, all the things, there's a lot of steps in my day. But I also go to the gym. Now, I originally started going to the gym doing yoga and Pilates to build my core strength. But as I started eating more, which sounds wrong, doesn't it? As I started eating more on this meal planning app program, I started losing weight, and it was great. Now, fast forward those 12 or so months, and I plateaued, like lots of people who are on that weight journey. But I plateaued for around about a year. And during this, I decided that maybe it was because the yoga and Pilates wasn't enough cardio. And so I started doing cardio classes. I did outdoor and boxing and step and all the cardio-based programs at the gym. And I scaled back my yoga and Pilates. But still, I wasn't losing the weight. Now, this went on, as I said, for quite some time, 12 months. And I wasn't gaining, but I also wasn't losing. And I was putting a lot of effort in. I was going to the gym 5 to 7 days a week. And it got to the point where I was thinking, you know what? I am totally over this. I'm putting so much effort in. I'm going to the gym 5 to 7 days a week. I'm eating healthy. I know how many calories I'm eating, and I know that I'm on top of going to the gym. I walk the dogs twice a day, and we've got all the stairs. And I was frustrated. I was pretty disappointed, and it was wearing me down. I mean, why the heck would you put all this effort in when I could go back to just going to yoga or Pilates a couple of times a week, really enjoying the classes and being in the exact same spot? And this happens in life. When you put lots of effort in and you aren't seeing any results, you quite quickly start thinking, why do I bother? And then you gradually tend to just let things go and you slip back to the point where you've always been. But I decided that this time I wouldn't throw in the towel quite yet. If being in this business has taught me anything, it's that if I really wanted to achieve the results I wanted, then I should seek out the help of someone who actually knew what they were doing. So I made the commitment to work with a personal trainer, and this was about just over 2 months ago. Now, when I made this decision, due to the financial cost, I was just going to go once a week, just to see if it made any difference. But I have to say, in my heart of hearts, I thought that once a week probably wasn't really committing. Because even if the trainer gave me the program, I'm the kind of person who either needs a class or I need the accountability. I'm not going to pick up the program and go to the gym and do the program by myself. Happy to do the class, happy to work with the trainer. Probably, highly likely, I'm not going to do it myself. But I was going to give this thing a go. So I came home and mentioned to Ed that I was going to start working with the personal trainer. And Ed has never been a gym person. He goes for runs, he likes to ride, he walks every day with me, but he's never ever been a gym person. And strangely enough, he said to me, I think I'd like to come too. And I said, oh, okay, that would be great. So I went to the gym and asked how much it was for an extra person, and they said there was no extra cost. And so we decided that we would do 2 sessions a week because there was no difference in each of us doing 1 session or the 2 of us doing 2 sessions. So we signed up and session 1 comes around. It's Tuesday. Time to get started. There's only one problem. I have the flu. Now, I'm not talking a cold. I'm talking the real flu, the kind of flu that lays you up in bed for 2 weeks and where you are so sore. Every muscle and every bone in your body hurts. And in fact, even your hair hurts. So Ed and I debate on whether we should just delay starting, but he says no, he'll go for the first session. So great. He goes to the first session and he works with the trainer and he gets his program set up. Session 2 comes, which is Thursday. Now I'm somewhat recovered. This is several weeks after I've had the flu. So I think I was on about week 3 or week 4 where you still feel like crap, but you're still pretty tired. But now Ed has the flu. And so I turn up to my first session, not really excited about doing anything. I didn't have the energy. Just walking up and down the stairs at home was tiring me out. But I decided I would commit. I've paid the money. I will turn up. Now, on that first session, Lauren, our personal trainer, asked me to think about what my goal was. What did my ultimate body look like? Now, if you had asked me this question in my 20s, the answer was very, very different because I had been through this process before. Remember, back in my 20s when I lost all of that weight. But now what I wanted was different. I'm 45. And what I really wanted was a body that felt strong or a body that does feel strong and that is less flobby than it used to be. And you know what? I wanted really nice arms. I wanted to be able to wear a tank top and not look like I had old lady arms. Here in Australia, we call them bingo wings or tuck shop lady arms, chicken wings. We all have funny names, but you know those sort of saggy underneath your arm tricep parts. So I wanted to have nice arms. So Lauren is furiously scribbling all this down and then it's time to take measurements. So she measures my legs, my calves, my waist, my hips, my bust, my arms, and then I have to hop on the scales. And she said to me, what weight do you want to be? And this was a pivotal moment because, as I said, if you'd asked me in this question in my 20s, I had a number. But I'm 20-something years older now. And what I want is very, very different. Because what I wanted now was all about me. I wanted to feel strong. I wanted to feel toned. I wanted to feel less flabby. And in fact, what I weighed was irrelevant. And I actually joked with Lauren that had you have asked me this 20 years ago, I would have been so focused on that number that everything else wouldn't have been important. So considering we work in 90-day sprints in the business, Lauren decided that we should set our goals for 90 days. So 4 weeks in, I put my hand up and say, Lauren, it's time for me to measure in. And so we do. Now, if you have ever been on the weight journey, you know you have days where you feel skinnier or you feel more toned or you feel bloated. And going into this, I thought, I feel like I've made some progress, but it's only been 4 weeks. So you know what? I didn't really have any expectations. So Lauren starts measuring my calves and my legs and my hips and my waist and my arms and I get on the scales and my weight is exactly the same. And for that brief moment, I had that sinking feeling. Again, I've been putting all this effort in, coming to the personal trainer twice a week, doing yoga and Pilates and all the other classes another 2 to 3 times a week, walking twice a day, walking up and down the stairs, making a concerted effort, and nothing had changed. It was literally exactly the same. And then Lauren obviously looked at me and realized that I was not happy. And she said to me, guess what? You have lost 4 centimeters off of your waist. That's like 1.5 inches for you guys in America. Really? Off my waist in 4 weeks? Now, not only that, I'd lost 2 centimeters off my hips and my body fat percentage had gone down a whopping 4%. Now for me, that was amazing. I was so impressed. I had no expectations for those numbers to look like that. Now, right about now, you might be thinking, what the freaking hell has this got to do with business, Sal? Well, as I walked away from that session, I got back into the car, super excited, chatting to Ed about how I'd hit these numbers that I wasn't expecting. I realized that quite often in business, it's easy to focus on the wrong things. Now, generally in business, we focus on our revenue or our turnover. But I'm asking you this today. Right now, are you focusing on the wrong things? Let's look at it this way. A $10 million business that has a 3% net profit is not the same as a $1 million business with a 15% net profit. Now, whilst the $10 million business that has that net profit of 3% is going to have $300,000 in the bank, and the $1 million business is going to be half of that at $150,000, the fact is the $1 million business is actually in a better position. They have half the amount of a profit, but 1/10 of the amount of turnover. It's the same as a $300,000 business that has 0% net profit, or worse still, where you're paying the business to run. It's easy to focus on the $300,000 turnover, but at the end of the day, if the business isn't paying you, or if you're paying the business to run, then that is the wrong metric to be measuring. You shouldn't be measuring revenue or turnover. Now, my entire life, I have been measuring myself against my weight. I had to be a certain weight to feel like I'd been successful. But in that scenario that I just talked to you about, that happened a couple of weeks ago, if I'd only focused on my weight, then I would have felt like a failure. I put all this effort in to get nowhere. But if I had focused on my weight, what I was actually doing was sabotaging my success. But by getting clear on what I really wanted, that enabled to put realistic goals in place, realistic results that I wanted to achieve that would measure my real success. But it would also allow me to change course if something wasn't working. So, funnily enough, I'm actually happy that my arm measurements went up because it's a sign that my arms are becoming more muscular. But if my waist measurements were going up, then that would signal to both me and to Lauren, my trainer, that we were focusing on the wrong things and that we needed to change our tactics. We needed to change where we were putting the effort in. So back to those examples I was just saying, the different turnover businesses. I'm sure you can see that the 300K business should focus on being more profitable rather than just increasing their revenue. If they continue to increase their revenue, but they're still not making any money, then that's not successful. So the $300,000 business that isn't making any money has to be focusing on the right metric. Now that metric is not turnover. For the $300,000 business, that metric should be profitability. And in fact, if they choose to focus on revenue, they will actually be sabotaging their business. Because if they're not making any money now, then something is broken. So by increasing their turnover, is that just going to put them into more debt? Do you see how for that business, focusing on revenue is actually the wrong thing? And by doing that, by focusing on their turnover, they could actually end up further in debt. Focusing on revenue is sabotaging the business. Now, that $1 million business with the 15% profitability, again, if they continue to focus on revenue, then sure, they may increase their net profit, but without knowing more, they may also decrease their profitability and they could end up being the $10 million business with just a 3% margin. So in fact, they might have to focus on increasing their customer base rather than increasing their revenue. Because if all they focus on is their revenue, then they could lose that profitability. They could lose customers by losing their repeat business. There's lots of things that can happen. And that $10 million business with the 3% net profit. Now, sure, they can focus on revenue, but at the end of the day, they're only at 3% net profit. That is not a great place to be. So what they really should be focusing on is their profit margin. Because if they can increase that margin, if they can increase their profitability, they don't need to make any more sales to make more money. So thinking about it now, asking yourself, are you focusing on the wrong things in your business? Are you actually sabotaging your business success by doing that, by focusing on vanity metrics rather than the money in the bank? Now, on the outside, it may seem really fun to talk about how much revenue you're turning over, but if you are paying your business to run because it's not making any money, that's not successful, it's not scalable, and it's not sustainable. So if this has struck a nerve and you're thinking, maybe I am focusing on the wrong things, let me give you some tips on how you can change the actions that you're putting in so that you can stop sabotaging your success. Now, the first one is to be accountable. Now, I mentioned right at the beginning that once I told Ed that I was going to the trainer, then he decided to come along. And so just that in and of itself pushes you, when you have somebody there, when you have somebody relying on you to turn up or to take action, that pushes you so much further. But also the accountability comes when I decided to fork out the money to pay for the personal trainer. It's up to me to make use of her services. I can pay her and not turn up. She's going to be super happy about that, right? But that's not why I entered into the agreement. I hired her because she was great at what she does and she got results. And that's what I wanted. Someone who could help me get the results that I wanted. So how can you be more accountable in your business? Maybe it is finding a biz bestie to have a conversation with each week or each month. Maybe it is paying somebody. Maybe it's as simple as committing to having your books done every single month and taking the time to look at and analyze your numbers. Okay, so the second thing that you can do, and it's probably pretty obvious, is know the results that you actually need. Now, not getting caught up in vanity metrics, not getting caught up in how much turnover you've got, or how much revenue you've got. What are the metrics? What are those KPIs? What's the baseline that you need to be running your business? And from there, you can set some targets in place as to what you think is successful. But as we've learnt today, if you're measuring the wrong things, because if you are solely focusing on turnover, there's a good chance that you're not as profitable as you could be. And at the end of the day, it's dollars in the bank that actually matter. Okay, so those first two things, be accountable and then know the results that you actually need. So from there, we go to step 3. And step 3 is you need to be tracking those results. Have I told you about Pearson's Law before? I probably have. It's one of my favorites. Now, Pearson's Law is basically paraphrasing, that which is measured improves, and that which is measured and reported improves exponentially. What does that mean? Well, if you bother to measure your metrics, back to step 2, the thing that you know that you need, if you bother to measure it, you will see an improvement. But if you go to the effort of not only measuring it, but reporting it back, that was step 1, being accountable, then you're likely to improve exponentially. Now, none of this costs anything. It comes down to commitment, and it comes down to having clarity in your business, confidence to step up and be the CEO, and having control of not only where your business is at right now, but where your business is headed. So realistically, you have no excuse not to do any of these things because it's not going to cost you a cent. It is literally just you stepping up. Okay, the last step number 4 that you can take to stop sabotaging your business and start seeing great increases is to find the knowledge and advice that you need to get the results for that specific thing that you already identified, but to get the knowledge and advice from somebody who has already done it. Don't be crowdsourcing your answers from Facebook or Instagram or Reddit or any other forum. If you are truly committed to getting results, now that doesn't have to be me, right? That could be somebody else. But if you are truly committed to getting the results that you want and to stop sabotaging your business and start increasing your sales and your profitability, then you need the knowledge and advice of someone who has done that thing successfully. I mean, if you take nothing else from this episode, it's quite simply that the answers to your business success do not lie in crowdsourcing answers from some random people in a Facebook group. This all goes back to step 1, being accountable. If you step up and be the CEO of your business, I don't care if it is just you or you and a virtual assistant or you and a couple of employees. This is a mindset shift. You have to step up and take control. You have to be clear about what you want, and you have to be confident in the decisions that you're making. And you're not going to be any of those if you are choosing the wrong metrics to measure your success against, or even worse, burying your head in the sand and just hoping that things get better. I could have done that when it came to my weight. I could have just continued to do the same things that I was doing, stay at that same weight, stay at that same body shape. But I wanted more. I wanted to be better. And that was better in my eyes, not better in somebody else's. I wanted to feel strong. I wanted to have control. I wanted to feel confident. So I did step up and take control. It was taking control of my own health. And I decided on what was important to me rather than just simply how much I weighed on the scales. And the results have been fantastic. I'm super excited. I do have that trepidation though, because this week is the 2nd month. We're coming up to the 8th week. So I'm going to have to do my measuring And of course, we have been in lockdown now for going on 4 weeks. So I'm only allowed to train once a week because since lockdown, Ed and I have had to break our sessions up. I'm only training once a week. And I'll be honest, I haven't been doing as many virtual classes because it's just not the same, right? There's a limited amount of space. You're trying to jam everything in, home learning, all the things. And so I'm realistic that this month I may not get the results that I want. And I know full well that that result all comes down to me. It all comes down to me putting the action in to get the results that I want. So I would love it if you could hit me up on Instagram or Facebook and let me know if this episode was helpful. Have you been judging your whole success on revenue or turnover alone? Or have you stepped up to be the CEO and you know the metrics that you need to grow your business and you've been accountable, you've set the goals, you've tracked them, and you've found someone to help you get those results who's done it before and not crowdsourcing those answers on Facebook? I'd love to hear your answer. As I said, hit me up, Facebook or Instagram or even LinkedIn, and let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selinaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selinaknight.com and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.